Hey, Jantans and Jantanites, it's Jason Desmond from the Jantan Collective. Welcome to a new edition of What's Up With That, where we question, we learn, and we grow. Now, remember, subscribe, like, and comment below. In fact, click on the little bell button if you want to get one of those notifications from us. And also, do get in touch with us also if there's something that you want us to talk about. We want to hear from you, all right? Now, these are difficult times, no doubt about it. In fact, it's like shit hit the fans kind of times. So experts are using words like unprecedented, devastating. So why are we pretending that we've kind of got things under control when we really don't, right? Why can't we say we're nervous? Why can't we say we're stressed? In fact, why can't we say we're just filled with anxiety? I mean, what's up with that? And today, to help us get more insights into anxiety, clinically diagnosed anxiety, we have with us Professor Dr. Alvin Ng Lai Oon. He's a professor and head of Department of Psychology with Sunway University. And also, we have Amirul Haziq Umar, officer in the marketing department of an international NGO, who has lived through anxiety. He was diagnosed with anxiety at 17 years old. He's now 27. And you still live through it, right, Haziq? You still actually technically have it, but it's under control now, would you say?
Yeah, it's under control now, with the treatment that I receive. So I can see it's under control now. So it's way better than during the first time when I was diagnosed.
All right. We'd love to find out more. We'll get into when it first happened, when you first felt it was spiraling out of control. But let's get Professor Dr. Alvin Ng in. The title is super long, but Dr. Alvin, what is anxiety really? Because there's so many different ways of classifying it. I've seen it's generalized anxiety disorder, there's social anxiety, there's specific phobias, there's panic disorder. What is anxiety?
All right. Well, the thing is, when you mention the term anxiety, it basically means what all of us feel on a daily basis. All right. So anxiety is a very natural emotion that we all have. But when you talk about generalized anxiety disorder or obsessive compulsive disorder, you're talking about an anxiety disorder. So we need to differentiate between anxiety and anxiety disorders. So in this, I guess, forum, we are talking about anxiety disorders. Because if you just say anxiety, it's a day-to-day thing. It's natural because it's adaptive. We need to have some form of anxiety for us to survive. Otherwise, we are so chilled that we wouldn't want to get out of bed.
Right.
The thing is, when we have too much anxiety to the point that it leads to dysfunction, meaning we have difficulties doing the things that we want to do every day, it causes impairment and lots of distress, then that's where you need to do something about it actively. And this is something that Haziq has lived through. So I suppose if you want to talk about anxiety as a disorder, you're looking at dysfunction, you're looking at being incapacitated, where it's so difficult to handle it to the point that it disrupts your whole day. It disrupts your relationships, it disrupts your work, to the point that you really need professional help. So that's what we are talking about. And of course, having all that would cause a lot of distress to you as well as to the people around you. And that's why we call it a disorder.
But how do we know when it's too bad for us to handle? Because maybe we've grown up with it, we've seen people having this around us and whatnot. At what point do we know that I think I need help?
Well, the thing is, if you find that you've got difficulties handling anything, even if you feel that you may not be too serious, seek help anyway. Because what I would really encourage is to get it addressed as early as possible. Because when it gets worse, firstly, it takes longer to learn how to manage it. It's going to cost you a lot more because you may need to go for medication for quite some time, at least 2 years. And it's not cheap. Medication, it helps reduce your symptoms, but it does not actually help teach you the skills to manage. So apart from medication, you also need to learn skills, and that usually comes from a psychologist. or a counselor if they're also trained in helping you with it. So for me, as long as you find that you have difficulties adjusting, you try and your friends have tried to help you and you still have difficulties, seek help. Even if you find that you are not too serious, seek help anyway, just to learn it so that you know what to do.
So in
That would
Haziq's
be my
case,
advice.
you said at 17 you sought help, like what Dr. Alvin mentioned. Why did you seek help at that particular time? Was it getting really, really bad? Was it spiraling out of control?
But during that time, I don't have any knowledge what is anxiety is. So the story began when I was sitting for my SPM examination. During that time, I was in Form 5. So I was on a pure science courses. So during that time, I still remember it was an additional mathematics maths paper, second paper. So the question is really, really difficult. So when I try to see all the question, I start to feel panicky. Start my hand in the the examination hall is really, really wide. So I start to feel panicky, shaking, and then
Did you feel it before you
palpitations.
got into the exam hall though?
No, during when
This
I
only happened
started
during.
to, yeah, during when I started to notice that I can't answer most of the question. So the negative thought started to came to my mind. What if I fail this paper? Do I need to need to resit need to take this examination again? Yeah. So then the physical symptoms started to show. Started to have a palpitation. I started to have a sweating. My palms start to sweating. My hand palm start to have a tremor. Yeah, and I even worse. I feel like I want to faint. So feel like a dizziness and also a vertigo. So what happened is I can't tie the question paper. So and I call the invigilator because cikgu, I cannot ikat this paper, so I
So they
need
give
your
you a
help.
benang and everything, right? Last time.
Yeah, the benang. Yeah, so and then the teacher started to help me, and then after that, I bring this to my parents. Yeah, so they bring me to the medical officer, see the general practitioner, and then the doctor said that this is maybe one of the symptoms of panic attack plus anxiety. Yeah, and then he made a referral letter to the HUKM. Then my dad bring me to the psychiatrist. Then after a few long assessment, I think along 1 hour, he took my history and everything, and he diagnosed it with a generalized anxiety disorder (GAD) plus
Right.
some sort of panic attack. Yeah,
And before this, you've never had any
I never,
experiences.
I never have. Yeah, that was my first time I feel it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
was that the first exam paper that you were taking for SPM, or you had other papers and you were completely fine?
I'm that is not the first paper. We have like before that we have Bahasa Melayu, Sejarah, History. Not that quite difficult.
Right.
Then during
Okay. So when AdMath
I
came up,
still
you basically freaked out, and then
yes, I freak out.
was
Yeah.
that the last paper? No. Yeah. How did?
It's not really a last paper, but I think it's almost the last day of the SPM. Yeah.
Okay,
And
but
then
you
when the
didn't.
SPM
So you didn't have to go back for other papers.
no, and then I think the it's the second last paper. Yeah, the last paper is I think biology. So after the
Could you
last
do
day of the
that?
SPM, I can do that a bit better, far better than the additional mathematics. Yeah,
Right. So it was
and
just
plus
at that moment you just spaced out in a way.
at that moment, yeah, and then after that also after I went out from the examination hall, I can still feel the palpitation, can still feel very difficult to breathe, dizziness, vertigo. I don't know what happened. What the hell is this? So yeah, I bring this to my parents' attention, and then they immediately bring me to.
What did they say? Were they surprised? Your parents?
They also don't have any knowledge on this, because we don't have any. Even me also don't. They don't have any basic knowledge on this psychological disorder, right?
And there's no family history,
So
obviously.
no, yeah, no. So I'm considered the first one that was diagnosed with this anxiety disorder. Yeah, maybe by my dad, he said maybe he have, but it's not like worse as me.
Right. Dr. Alvin,
Yeah.
is anxiety and panic attacks and such, are they hereditary?
Well, we know from research there's some percentage, but reason why anyone would have any kind of anxiety attack, I mean, there's so many factors that interact to lead to it. I mean, what Haziq experienced there is what he shared is quite a common kind of anxiety attack where at that point you feel like you're just probably going to explode. You don't know what to do. Everything shakes. I've had it before.
Really?
In fact, it was just 3 years ago. Yeah. And the thing about an anxiety attack is it's an attack. It's a once-off thing, but it happens again and again to the point that it makes you just anxious generally, and that's how you experience your day-to-day life to the point that it impairs you. You have difficulties actually doing the stuff you're supposed to do, then it becomes a disorder. But
When you say
attack
again and
is-
again, though, Dr. Alvin, are you
Yeah.
saying like every day or every once in a while it
Yeah.
happens?
pretty much every day, most of the time, to the point that you just have difficulties managing your life. So what I had was more of an attack, just once. I actually
one-off.
thought I was having a heart attack. I had to run to the, emergency department, and good thing it was just down the road. So, but then when I got checked out, they say, hey, your heart is okay, everything's fine.
So what was it like? Shortness of breath? Did you feel pain in your heart?
Yeah, not pain, like chest tightness and stuff,
okay.
similar to what Haziq felt. And it's just to show that it can happen to anyone at any time. I'm known as kind of a cool person, but I guess that was at a very heated meeting. Suddenly I had tremors in my hand, I was having cold sweat, and I thought, hey, what's going on here? And even me, I'm a trained clinical psychologist.
Exactly,
I should know these things better, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought it was a heart attack. So that's because, my family has got history of heart attacks. So I thought, my cousin just had one the other day, what's going on here? And apparently it was a panic attack, an anxiety attack. But that's a single episode.
What was
Once
the trigger,
I
though?
know,
Do you remember?
Given a very big responsibility.
Really? From work?
Yeah, leadership.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm the kind of person who would just shy away from all this kind of stuff, but I was given it, I'm like, oh no.
Right.
So yeah, I panicked that way. And if I were Haziq also facing an AdMats paper, I would probably panic too, because I totally hated AdMats. But the thing is, if it happens again and again and again, it becomes a disorder because you just have difficulties handling your life. And there are many kinds of anxiety disorder. General anxiety disorder is just one of them. There is also specific phobias, specific phobic disorders where you are afraid of something in a very unreasonable way. Like, most of us are afraid of snakes, but how many of us are actually afraid of a picture of a snake? If we freak out seeing a picture of a snake. Yeah, people do. And even cartoon snakes. Some people can get so freaked out that they cannot manage themselves at that time.
Haziq, you have any of those? No, right?
No.
Just checking.
I guess in Haziq's case, it's more of generalized anxiety. So every now and then he may have the shakes here and there. But by now, I'm sure you would know how to handle it, right, Haziq?
Yeah.
You still feel anxious, but you're better able to manage it. And that's what most of us feel.
But do you need medication, though? I mean, in your case, you did need medication, right?
Who, me?
Yeah, Dr. Alvin, yeah.
No, not at the time. I mean, they laughed and sent me back. Emergency people are like, you're just going through a panic attack. You're okay, fine, go home.
Oh my God. But Haziq, you had, when you were diagnosed, did you get medication?
Yeah, I still remember the doctor started to prescribe me with a medication. It's called escitalopram, Lexapro. So it's fall under. He said that this is an antidepressant. So I'm saying, what the hell is this? I'm having a anxiety disorder, and then you describe me with an antidepressant.
Yeah.
Are you trying to say that I'm having a depression? So yeah, so started from there, I start to deny. I'm start to become a denial. Okay, I am normal. I what the hell is anxiety? The anxiety is I'm really normal. I don't have any, depression or what. So I'm try to ignore it as best as I can until so after my SPM examination, I feel very happy. So there is no distress, at all. I stay at home. During that time after SPM, we hoo-ha, have fun with our friends, lepak at mama every day, went to karaoke. And then I started to enter my university time. And it was during my second semester. I entered the examination hall again, and I feel the same, the same situation when I was in Form 5. I'm
What
sitting
was the paper? Was it math again?
no, it's not a math, but during that time is quite a stressful, because before that we have a deadline during our final week of semester. So we have a lot of deadline. And then during that time, I also joined a military training. So yeah, so a lot of pressure during that time. So I have a very short time to study for the paper, and then we need to sit for two papers at the same day. Yeah. So during the second paper, I still remember that I started to have the palpitation, shaking. Yeah. So it made me remember what I was feeling, yeah, during my
At math.
Form 5. Yeah, so during that time, so I still can answer the question, but during that time I still don't have any knowledge what to deal with this kind of situation. Yeah, so and after that, after the examination finished, the day after, I went to our to the health center of my campus. Then the doctor said this might be due to my anxiety and panic attacks. Yeah, so he gave me some sort of the medication. Then after during the semester break, I decided to meet again with the my psychiatrist. Went back to HUKM, and yes, from that point, I started to accept that, yeah, I'm having this problem and I really need help from the expert.
So you've been I'm trying to figure out the timeline, right? So from when you took the SPM and then it was at math, so the
Yeah,
doctor gave you meds. Did you take it
yeah. After
constantly
that,
after that until university, or you just took it one time and then you just left it alone?
I took it one time only, yeah, and then
And
after
then
that, I'm try to ignore as best as I can. Yeah, I don't have any problem until I enter my university. Yeah,
and then again they put you on meds. At that point you accepted? Did you continue to take the medication?
yeah. I did continue, and then at the same time, the doctor, started the treatment. After a few months, I have been taking the medication. The doctor started to pair me with a clinical psychologist. Yeah, so I started to went for a psychotherapy session. So started to have a psychotherapy session with a clinical psychologist, and from that time I started to learn about the coping skills. What is the trigger? So it's mainly I undergone the treatment is called cognitive behavior therapy, CBT. Yeah.
Right,
So I
I've heard of
went
that. Yeah.
for quite a few sessions. Yes, and then it's really helpful.
But you're working now, so you're coping well, I would say.
Yeah. Sometimes it still happen, but with the experience and the skills that I have, we call it as the tools. So from that, I can, when it's happened again, I at least I can identify what is the trigger, and I can, and from
Right.
there I can make some some actions like practice a deep breathing,
And take control of it.
Take control, or did a journaling, talk record, monitor my talk. Yeah, so that's what among the tools that help me.
Dr. Alvin, would you say that Haziq's case is, and I'm not trying to water whatever you're going through down, is it a mild case of anxiety? Because you mentioned disorder, right? Is this a mild case of anxiety disorder?
Well, the thing is, anxiety disorder is actually a whole umbrella.
Right.
And what Haziq could have gone through the first time was probably a panic attack. And that does not necessarily mean that he has an anxiety disorder. I mean, for me, I'm not going to challenge the psychiatrist's diagnosis,
right.
But we need to know the whole story, and this is only what we know so far. When it's generalized anxiety disorder, you would see that a person is more or less anxious most of the time. So if Haziq can say that after SPM he had a nice time, celebrating, and it was okay, and it's not really likely on hindsight to say that he had GAD at the time. Maybe now it developed into GAD. That needs further management. And it's good that he has gone through cognitive behavior therapy because, like Haziq said, pills do not teach you skills. When you're on medication basically reduces the symptoms that you have so that it becomes more manageable. While you're on medication, when you're better managed, that's where you start learning skills, cognitive skills, behavioral skills, how to activate your behavior in a way that would minimize any possible attacks in the future. To learn skills, and cognitively also you need to keep on practicing. It's a lot of hard work, isn't it, Haziq? Yeah, a lot of practice. It can be very frustrating, and basically you know that at any time you might get an attack again. So at least you are more in control over a potential attack, or that when you are about to get more anxious, you can sense that you're getting anxious and can do something about it.
Why was he given antidepressants though? I mean, it was
that's a very good question because a lot of people don't know that antidepressants also manage anxiety, and I would maybe the psychiatrist didn't tell him earlier on, but a lot of people who are depressed may also be prescribed antipsychotics, and that may sound quite scary because if you're depressed, you're not necessarily psychotic, which is like schizophrenia, hearing
extreme,
things,
doesn't it? Yeah,
it does feel extreme, but we need to look into the literature, into the scientific literature, to find out more about why. It's because many of these medications are able to address, other diagnoses. So, for example, Haziq was given an antidepressant, but the thing is, anxiety and depression, they come together. They're like hand in hand. They're like two ends of the same stick. When you get highly anxious, and for a while, if you are very anxious, you are likely to become very tired after a while because you're fighting it all the time, isn't it?
Okay.
It's very frustrating. It gets very tiring. And once you're tired, that's where you become depressed. So there was even talk of perhaps depression actually being together with anxiety. You cannot just diagnose anxiety by itself. It has to come with depression kind of thing. But I will let the so-called experts, I wouldn't say so-called, but they are experts, debate on that. But the thing is, antidepressants do help manage anxiety.
Okay.
And sometimes you may even be given antipsychotics because they can regulate mood as well. It can help you feel calmer. In fact, antipsychotics can just totally knock you out.
Right.
You just feel sleepy most of the time. And that can also be a problem, isn't it? I don't know about Haziq, but certain medication when you take, you become so sleepy you can't function.
Yeah, I've been told, because I have a friend who actually just went on these meds, and then she says that she's just constantly she feels a little bit, for lack of a better term, I suppose, blur. That she's
kind of like a zombified kind of feeling.
Yeah,
that's the kind of term people use. And the thing is, when you're on medication, basically your whole lifestyle has to change. And unless someone is there to help you cope with that change in lifestyle, and your change in lifestyle would affect other people as well. Can you imagine if a husband is on medication and he's asked to take his medication at 8 o'clock, by 9 o'clock he's asleep? What would the rest of the family think?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we need you to function after 9. Why must you take so early?
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't take it early, the next morning he won't wake up on time.
Right.
So
it affects more than just that person.
Exactly. So when it comes to any kind of treatment, it has to be, oho kampong, to come together and understand what's going on.
Right.
And that's where we need to have better mental health literacy.
Right.
It's
Actually,
not about being, sorry?
no, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not about being normal or not normal. That doesn't factor in anymore. It's
Yeah.
either you are able to function or don't function.
Right. Because at some point,
Normalcy is
all of us
a
have
romantic
some
idea.
kind of issues mentally in some ways, right?
Yeah, but we manage them, you see.
Yeah.
We are unhappy now and then. We are happy now and then.
Okay.
That's part of who we are.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a time where we are not able to manage and it drags on for a while, then that's where you need to look for help. Even I do that.
Yeah.
I'm burnt out.
Right.
Yeah, I go and seek counseling just to, get better.
Because I think we all need to
Yeah.
recognize that having mental health issues once in a while, we all go through it, and then we just need to recognize that I think sometimes we need some help, right? Because I'm just looking at this Soul's Health study that was done. Apparently, Malaysian men are pretty okay when it comes to anxiety. I'm not trying to water this down, but when we compare ourselves to nations like Sweden, Lebanon, who's constantly having some kind of peace issues there, and Korea and Nigeria, we're okay. But do you feel, especially now, that there are more people going through anxiety attacks, or not necessarily disorders, but they're having some kind of a thing going on?
Well, I guess in the age of COVID, anxiety is
Yes.
at all-time high for everyone. The threat of losing a job, it's a real thing. A lot of people are losing their jobs, and especially men. Men are usually seen as the breadwinner, and that's where men's issues come in. The fear of losing a job means you are likely to be very, very vulnerable. It's not a man's thing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, of course, anxiety is going to be high.
Because
there's
it's not
certain
just
things you
about
can't
the job.
control.
It's you fear about, as you mentioned just now, if the husband or the guy sleeps at 9 o'clock because he needs to be able to function or whatever it is, but he's technically not functioning. In this case, COVID, we might not even have money to feed our family. So that
Correct.
also causes anxiety, right?
And even if we have a job, we're working from home, and we've got kids running around, you're going to be pretty stressed out.
Yeah.
And it's not just about anxiety; it's about the stress as well. It's overwhelming. So if you're overwhelmed, there's a natural tendency for you to fear what's going to happen in the future, and that's what anxiety is about. Anxiety is fearing what might happen in the future.
Right.
And then depression is more towards the past and about your current self, that you're not able to do something. You feel very disabled, and that is very depressing.
I see. Actually, Haziq, are you working from home now?
Yeah, I'm working from home right now.
You're 27, right? I didn't get the specifics of you. Are you married? Do you have kids, or are you living with family now?
Yeah, I'm living with a family. But right now my parents just moved out to a new house, and apparently their new house is like a studio apartment, so it's quite small though, so and can only accommodate both of them, one of my little sister. So technically I'm living alone right now. Yeah.
So are you concerned about your job right now with this pandemic?
I think it's a bit low right now. Yeah, it's a bit
Okay.
better and better, because I know this is, if even the pilot lost their job.
Yeah.
Even pilot, and the who
Hey,
knows,
he's making
right?
good
So-
money right now, man. I just read about him. He's selling
Yeah,
food.
the warung guy, is it?
Yeah, exactly. He's doing
Yeah.
really well. But
I thought it's a very good gimmick, isn't it?
I know, but it's a great time for people to pivot, right? But some people deal with it a bit better, because I just read that the National COVID-19 Psychosocial Support Hotline, which usually they average around 20 calls per day when this first started back in March. By the third week of MCO, it started going to average 200 a day. The Talian Kasih Helpline received a record-breaking 3,308 calls in April. It's up from its daily average of 145. This from a Star report, the Star newspaper report. Soul's Health, their website official viewership count almost tripled compared to the same month last year. So people are getting very, very stressed. But for us here at the Jantan Collective, it's not that we're not concerned about the ladies, but we're very concerned because most of the time the men are the breadwinners. But we also keep reading about, like what Haziq mentioned, the pilot. A lot of the guys have had to do a lot of other things to try to make ends meet. And I'm sure it's stressful, but are the numbers going up? Are men right now more susceptible to anxiety attacks, anxiety disorders, panic attacks? Dr. Alvin?
I think in terms of susceptibility, it's not just men, it's everyone. So the susceptibility to anxiety attacks, I think, have always been there. Just that our situation now is different. And every one of us are somehow at risk. Of course, if you've got all the money in the world, you would have some kind of buffer. But still, surely they would also worry. But I would say it's situational. And because jobs can be for men or women, and if men are the ones who are, traditionally the ones who bring in the income for the family, then of course, you're going to have much higher pressure compared to a family who's got both husband and wife working. But there's also that extra thing in some men that, there's a feeling that, as a man, I should earn more than my wife kind of thing. Yeah. The male privilege, I would say.
Correct.
Or rather, it's all psychological, definitely. So yeah, men, I would say, would have to contend with that kind of perhaps a limitation.
Or men just like, this out of being macho, they try not to tell people about it. They're less likely to report it. Maybe that's why the numbers don't
Correct.
really
Yeah,
reflect.
and we know that from statistics. Men are less likely to report, less likely to go for help compared to women. Because for me, I think it's because women are very comfortable with their own vulnerability. It's okay for women to be vulnerable because that's how femininity is also. And the thing about women is women have got the ability to be both masculine and feminine. Whereas for men, we only know how to be masculine because being feminine is a no-no. Yeah, there's so much stigma to attach to men being feminine, being nurturing and soft.
Culture and it's a systemic problem, isn't it?
Yeah, and for men to say, "Oh, you know what? I need help here. I don't really know what to do. I feel very helpless." What do you get when you say that? Come on, man.
Grow a pair.
Man up.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? Do something.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't know what to do. I'm helpless.
Yeah.
And men are just not allowed to be that vulnerable. So that's a problem.
Right.
That's a problem. Yeah.
One thing about COVID now, though, it's like, and I love the fact that there's an actual term for this because I find myself doing this, especially during the early days of COVID. Now, as you can see, the numbers have spiked because people just don't care about it anymore. They think they're invincible. But
that's a worry, isn't it?
That's another worry, right? Exactly. That causes me anxiety just thinking about people who don't care, right? But there's an increase of cyberchondria. I've never heard this before. Compulsively searching on the internet about symptoms of illness, and especially during COVID. But don't people do that in general anyway, even before this pandemic? Because they always look for Dr. Google, right?
Well, before Dr. Google is Dr. Glossy Magazine.
Oh, yes.
Every month, there'll be like a checklist where you tick off and go, oh my God, I've got this disorder. Yeah, 1 month is OCD, and next month is depression, and month after that is like PTSD or something.
Correct.
But yeah, it can be a problem because, just like my own psychology students, it's quite typical of any psychology students at second year when they learn abnormal psychology. Every chapter they read, they will diagnose themselves. Like I've got some of these diagnoses and I get upset. Yes, so there's a tendency for people to be, I suppose, wowed by all this information, and then they start reflecting on themselves and get all worked up over it.
Yeah, right. I never knew that there's such a term, actually, cyberchondria. So Haziq,
it's new to me too.
Right?
Yeah.
When you see all this information flooding in the media and social media, and people are saying this and that, and Donald Trump saying he took this and whatever, right? How do you feel about that? Does that trigger you anyway? Or do you feel like it's hard to breathe or whatnot?
Okay, in terms of the social media, luckily I have the knowledge on how to control on my social media consumption. Even I make a reminder on my phone, like every minute, my time screening is how many, and I'm using WhatsApp, like, how long. So I'm not that a person who like I know the limit of my social media
You're not
consumption.
obsessed with it,
So
right?
yeah, I'm not really that obsessed. So when I am overflooded with the information, I will stop and distract myself with doing other things. Yeah. So I'm not the one who is really obsessed. I'm not the one who like the story in Insta story, the person who scroll from first until the end. So it's make me it's really headache. So I know it will trigger my anxiety. So I will try to avoid it as best as I can. And I know when it comes to the social media consumption, like opening the Twitter, I will only open it to just for the sake of want to get up to date with what happening in the outside world. And yeah, so I think, and also want to keep in touch with friends. Sometimes I watch their stories, but I know the limit. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we
So it
can
doesn't worry
do
you. It doesn't, affect you at all.
during the first wave of the MCO, during the COVID-19 happened. I think I'm too obsessed with the word of COVID-19
I
MCO.
think we all
So
were.
during that time, I think I really obsessed. I scroll Twitter, what happened. So
Yeah, same
until
here.
Right? We all were,
yeah,
yeah.
I think we all the same, right? Until I
Suddenly
sit to
everybody became an
myself.
expert. Everybody knew about
Yeah,
numbers. They had a solution for it. No masks and everything. And
yes,
I'm like, suddenly everybody's a medical expert, right? I'm like, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
medical expert all suddenly become the epidemiologist. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, even me too. Yeah, so when I decided, when I started to realize, yeah, these things, this COVID-19 is happening all around the world, so I can't control everything. So what the best I can do is focus what is just to focus what I can control, the things I can control, like
Yeah.
controlling my diet, watch my exercise, practicing self-care. Yeah. So that is the after few months, the things getting better. I try to avoid the social media as best as I can.
Yeah. 'Cause
But of course, I still watch the news. So I
yeah.
can't deny the fact. Whenever I bored, I will scroll the Twitter. But then it's not for. It doesn't affect. Everything has a limit. I put a limit to myself.
Actually, Dr. Alvin, are there
Yeah.
are there male specific anxieties? Like anxieties that only men go through, that only men will understand, and women go, what? Of course there are some things that only women will understand that we will never understand, like menopause and hot flashes and stuff like that, right? We will never know. But are
Yeah.
there very male specific anxieties?
I guess there's some, usually men are seen as being more perverted and obsessed with sex.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to performance anxiety, it's there.
Yes. Yes.
You want to be macho, and it's all spoiled by porn.
Yeah. Right.
Where, you expect to be a super performer when actual stats doesn't show it. And then, of course, what I was alluding to earlier is the whole anxiety of losing control, losing power, losing authority. Where in fact I was just having a forum last night talking about the same thing about men's anxiety, men's mental health. That women are able to be vulnerable and fail and be okay with it and move on. Whereas for men, I suppose there's the egoistic side where I'm always winning, I'm always the winner. And therefore, when I lose, it's a huge, big failure. and I cannot handle that failure, that whole, thought process where I cannot, and that just basically seals it. It's like full stop. That's it. I'm a goner. I'm a loser. Bang.
Right.
There's a lot of fear in that, I feel. Among men, and that can also lead to even more problems like maladaptive coping mechanism, drinking, getting addicted to all kinds of stuff, not actually addressing the problem. It's kind of ironic because men seem to be the ones who just want to solve problems.
Yes.
Like, you got a problem, you got to do this. And that's where you got men, women fighting, because women want to be heard. They know how to solve the problem, but men saying, "Why you want me to listen to you for? Just do it. Just solve it."
Yeah.
But when it comes to themselves, it's more difficult for men to want to reach out because I guess the anxiety would be about how other men might view them.
Right. But it also comes back down to like they think that they don't have a problem also. They try to hide the fact that they have a problem in a way.
Yeah, pretty much a very man thing. Whereas women are more open to having problems and having all their girlfriends come over and say, "Hey, let's share this and let's talk about
Correct,
this.
yeah.
How can we empower you?"
Yeah.
Whereas men is like, "Hey, dude, problem lah.
Yeah.
What problem?"
Yeah.
Straight away.
Come, let's drink, right? And then that's how
Come,
it
let's
starts.
drink. Come, let's go tani somewhere. Let's
Yeah,
go
yeah.
to the mama. Let's order super cow Milo dinosaur kind of thing.
Yeah.
But those are very, very short term.
Yeah.
You after a while you just get distracted from the issue, but you still have the problem.
So men do have anxieties, but we need to kind of accept the fact that we need help.
Yep, and not
Right.
not just the anxiety specific to men. Any kind of anxieties. Because it's also month of November, where we look at men's issues,
Yes.
including mental health issues. We know that 75% of suicides are men, and partly because of men being
Really?
very impulsive and aggressive as well.
Right.
Yeah, we know that impulsivity is one of the high risk for suicide. And if you don't really know how to reach out for help and embrace your own vulnerability, then it's not such good news for men. So we as men need to talk to other men about how we can support each other and also learn how to reach out for support from anybody else.
Do you
Very,
think
very important.
men are getting better at it though? Talking to other men?
I think so. Men are becoming more sensitive in that sense and more open to being vulnerable, especially the younger generation, I find.
Because they're woke.
I suppose so.
Right.
Compared to more old school, stoic kind of, grin and bear it kind of thing.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get more touchy-feely men who are able to address problems early and not being afraid to share them.
Yeah, because I mean it goes into the workplace as well. I mean right? Because like Haziq, did you actually do your employers know that you have an issue with
Not
anxiety?
all, but I not everyone. I just story it to my closest and my trusted friend. But my supervisor know that I'm having with this symptom.
Were you
And even
required
she
to
knows that.
disclose it to them when you first applied for the job, when you first got it?
No, I didn't disclose any this what I'm having because I am in the phase of recovery. But after, because I'm quite close with my supervisor though, and even after I feel comfortable for quite some time, so then I be frank with her that I have this anxiety disorder, and luckily she is very, very supportive process. And sometimes she, when I need help, she will give some tips, from to I she is like a mother for me. So and even she knows that I'm joining this podcast. Yeah. So
Right. Okay.
yeah, she wishing me all the best. That is the importance of, I think the bosses also is playing an important part, in determining the, in affecting the mental health of the employers. If you have a supportive bosses, then I think it's very important to have a bosses who is very supportive. And also, at my workplace, I also have my, it's like a lunch buddies. So they are quite close to me, and few of them know my story. Sometimes they offer me, if you have, if you need some support, extra support, just give me a call or whatnot. Yeah.
Right.
And so sometimes if I have a problem, I will give a call, to one or two of my closest friends.
That's important. Dr. Alvin, what do you
Yeah.
think of this? I mean, it's great that some organizations are more accepting of people who have mental strain, and so many people are actually going through this right now, especially during COVID. But are organizations doing enough, do you think?
My answer is no, but there are more and more organizations who are becoming more mental health literate. And I would applaud people like Haziq talking about it to show that, hey, it's not about being crazy. It's nothing to do with being crazy. It's about anxiety, having difficulties managing certain things. But if we all get together and help each other out, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
There is no need for any stigma. We are just like anybody else. In fact, I like talking about mental health at work a lot. In fact, I wrote a whole chapter that's now out. So a shameless plug from me.
Okay.
Yes. It's about recognizing that we all would have some kind of mental health issues now and then. Some people just have more than others. We just have to support each other. That's how it is. There's no need for any kind of stigma. In fact, I openly tell my colleagues that I seek employee assistance program help, EAP. Some companies actually outsource, and I was basically the first person who went for it. You can imagine the referring doctor was asking me, so what do you do? I say, I'm a lecturer. What do you lecture in? Psychology? And she was like, why do you need to go and see a psychologist for? And I said, look, I'm burnt out. I'm stressed out. I just need to have some check and balance. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
And she was like, I had to educate her.
Right. So even within the circles, there's like some like you don't need help.
Definitely.
You're a psychologist. You should be able to handle it, right?
Yeah. And I just want to make sure that people know no one is immune to mental health issues.
Yes.
And it's okay to have. It's even better to ask for help. And she even asked me, why must you go look for a psychologist? Why can't you see friends? I said, well, I can see friends, but I know psychologists like myself, they're well trained.
Yeah.
And the methods that we use, such as CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, is shown to be actually effective.
Yeah.
So I'd rather, go and see someone who has got a track record,
who knows their shit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, evidence-based methods than to get drunk.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So I walk the talk.
Yes.
And I want to let people know, I see Haziq as a hero. We need to have more people with lived experience to come out and talk about it so that we normalize it. There's nothing wrong. It's just like if you have got fever, you go see the doctor. Yeah. Why? Because it's part of self-care. No one makes fun of you. Hey, you got fever.
Yeah.
Why is it that, you make fun of people with anxiety, with depression? Your anxiety disorder.
Because we all have anxieties.
Yeah.
Right.
And I must say, my job is very, very stressful. I have tons of anxiety every day. We have to rush. We work at home and our computer hangs and you look like that for a while.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's strange because I mean, like, you hit the nail on the head right there. Because I think part of the problem, like what with women, the glass ceiling has been there for generations. I don't even know how long it's been there, that men have placed on them, right? Because women are supposed to stay at home and take care. But then when they wanted to start working, you can't be a CEO. So men have been at fault for that. And I completely accept that. And I hope that's changing. But for men, it is other men that's the cause of stress also in many ways.
Oh, yeah.
Because we need to be macho, strong. In sales, you need to be cold-blooded. You need to close that sale. You need to drink more than other people and everything. All those locker room chats and everything.
Yes.
Being competitive. It's a huge problem, isn't it?
It is. Yes. Yep. The whole privilege. Well, we need to have more conversations about men's privilege, about men's power, about men's Pressure cooker.
Yeah.
And
I'm
a lot
at
of
fault
this,
with it sometimes. I understand. Like,
oh yeah,
because I've seen a guy in my office, I remember,
Mhm.
we work in a high pressure environment, right? So sometimes
Mhm.
when sometimes when shit hits the fan, you need to fix it. But I'm
Correct.
doing my part. You
Mm.
have to do your part. And
Mhm.
he froze, right?
Mm.
And I'm like, I got to do this. So I took over his stuff, and because I'm a man, I'm a problem solver, right? So I did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I asked him, dude, what happened? Then he
Mm.
said he had an anxiety attack, he had a panic attack, and
Mm.
it's completely fine. And he broke down, and he said it's never happened before. He's sorry and everything. Now, if I was a woke person, and I always think I am, I would say, you know what, dude, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We'll work around it. And I said it, right? I said those words. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, dude, seriously, man up. And the fact that I thought of those words made me so ashamed because I'm like, I've become one of those guys, that says
And-
it's wrong to cry and stuff.
And it's not your fault because that's how we've been brought up. I'm also at fault. I own up to it. So as men, we need to start owning up to all these things that we do that maintains that, I guess, gender difference or gender inequality.
Right.
It's about owning up to it, addressing it as men, because if men's going to be a part of the problem, men should also be part of the solution.
Yes.
And that's what we talk about in White Ribbon Campaign on the 25th of November, which is men's effort to stop violence against women by men. Yeah.
So we need to be the check and balance for other men.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And keep on talking about it. Let's break that, I guess, silence of macho-ness, machismo, whatever you call it.
Actually,
we're human beings.
On that also, do you think, like, again, it's a social media thing or a media thing, I don't know how you want to put it, but there's all these being macho and cool and whatever, right? CEOs, startup CEOs and whatnot. Like, oh, these guys made it, they started in the garage and look at them now. They got funding here, funding there. I've worked in a startup before, and I know it ain't no bed of roses. It's pretty horrible sometimes, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
They go through high levels of anxiety.
Yeah.
So why are we glamorizing that though?
It's a romantic idea.
Right.
A lot of things that we glamorize are all romantic ideas. Even the whole concept of happiness is a romantic idea. Last time I was asked, why can't we teach people how to find happiness? I'm like, you don't find happiness, you feel happiness.
Right.
You don't try to look for happiness because it's a good one, isn't it? Yeah. You won't find happiness. If you look for happiness, you get frustrated.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's this romantic idea where we have got, happily ever after kind of thing. But just like anxiety, happiness is fleeting. It comes and it goes. So just like any kind of success is a romantic idea. We succeed at one point, but success is only that one point. Unless we keep on moving, you cannot just shout scenario forever because, that's just one point.
Yeah.
Haziq
there's so much
very
failure,
well.
right? There's a lot of failure before you actually get to that success, right?
Correct. And you'll fail again and again and again. All the answers that I may give all of you may sound good, but they're all easier said than done.
Okay, let's talk about treatments. How do you treat someone with anxiety? Not necessarily disorder. Haziq, you had, and not necessarily everybody has to do this, but you were given antidepressants. You went through medication, and you also went for CBT. So, break it down for us from a personal experience. What do they do in CBT?
Oh, okay. The CBT stands for Cognitive Behavior Therapy. So I received my first CBT when I was when I was on my second or my third year of my diploma. But then I found it helpful because I don't have a trust with my therapist. I can't work with my therapist because
why?
I think because because the government hospital give me a a postgrad student therapist. So he is still under training. Yeah, so he is still under supervision. So I found that it's a bit awkward to work with him. Number one is because he don't have any experience, because he's still a student who did the masters for his final year. I'm a bit uncomfortable because he want to use my stories for his research, which is I'm not agree, because the objective is not to not to help me, but you want to help with your research.
Yourself. Yeah.
So back in 2015, I keep, when I started to become disappointed with the psychologists that are provided by the government facilities, and after a few times I started to Google where is the therapist, where I can find the treatment, but with an affordable price. And from there, I started to search, and I found this Soul's Health.
Yeah.
So I started to find Soul's Health, and from that, I meet with my therapist, Alicia. So she is my principal psychologist. So
she's my former student. I'm very proud of her.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Shout out right there.
Yeah. So Dr. Alvin is you are the advisor. So Alicia is my therapist back in 2015, and I am among, during that time they just founded this NGO, so-called NGO, with a very small team, only 2 therapists at that time. So during the CBT, she brings me, try to identify what is the main triggers. So CBT, what is the main triggers of my anxiety, right? For example, if I'm sitting for my examination, what is the main triggers of what led me to the to have this or panicky symptoms, right? So it's involved a few homeworks, I can say, few homeworks, how you want to identify your thought, your symptoms, your feelings, and how you can overcome it. And of course, when you have the negative thought, how you want to challenge that negative thought. So that is what CBT is. So that is the model of CBTs. So it involves your cognitive, it involves your emotion, it involves your behavior. So if you have a negative thought, you need to jot down. This is among your therapist will ask you to jot down.
Oh, that's the journal you're talking about.
Sorry?
That's the journal part that you were talking about, is it?
Yeah. It's not simple journal. Journal is one of it, but you can, if, for example, if you feeling anxious, just wrote down what do you think? What is your automatic thought that arise during that time? For example, I'm stupid, I'm a loser, and then when you come back to your therapist will challenge it whether this negative thought is true or not. From there you can, then only you will realize, okay, I am lonely, I am worthless, but is it true? Then maybe with the psychologist will guide you on how to challenge with the thought,
So you work through the emotions then.
Yeah, so it will bring to your emotion, and sometimes it will bring to your childhood also. What happened during your childhood, it bring you to the deeper level of states of your emotions. Yeah, and it will works with your memory as well. And of course, during the session, they will teach you on the coping skills. Yeah. So one of the coping skills is, for example, if you have anxiety, so it's about deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, journaling, and these coping skills is not to be practiced when you have the anxiety, but it need to be practiced before you have the anxiety. So it's like a preparation before, if that things happen, so you can manage it well. Yeah. So for example, if I want to go out to, because before this I'm having after the situation, after the incident, of the SPM. So when I go out to the shopping malls or like a huge area, I'm feeling like a palpitation, fainted. So it's like a phobia to me. So and then this is when 2015 I worked with my therapist. So she, a lot of like a behavior therapy. So before I went out to the shopping malls, I will do a deep breathing a lot. I will visualize as in I'm walking into the shopping malls, and then when after a while, then it's become better. I don't have the symptoms anymore, and it become under control.
Do you feel like you're more like stronger? Do you feel you're more resilient to a lot of things right now that would have triggered you? Like nowadays, it's like I can handle it.
Yeah, I can say I feel a bit more better, than what happened 5 years ago. At least right now, I'm more prepared and stand by just in case, just in case anything happened to me. I can say that I'm more prepared and equipped with a tools and knowledge to deal with. Let's say if I'm having a panic attack again, I can, at least I have a knowledge to deal with it, how to tackle with it. But of course,
CBT.
sometimes relapse happen. Sometimes relapse
Yeah.
happen. Yeah, of course. Yeah, sometimes I'm having insomnia, having a panic attacks. Yeah, then it's normal because it's part and parcel of life to have
Yeah.
this.
I think we relapse into everything, like even diet for
Yeah.
crying out loud. Once in a while,
Yes. Yeah.
you need a junk food, man. Once in a while, why not?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
But Dr. Alvin, what is your preferred? And again, I don't know enough about this. Is there a preferred mode of treatment, or is there a different kind of treatment for different cases?
Different people would be attracted to different kinds of approaches. CBT is just one approach. There are many approaches these days. CBT is normally prescribed because it's the most researched one. So we are more confident that it should work on most people most of the time. But there are many other methods. There's, of course, a psychodynamic method that came from Freud and gang.
Right.
Not as scientific, but can be scientifically researched. There's the newer ones, that's something like acceptance and commitment therapy. There is also mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. But there are many methods. The whole idea is for you to switch from a not so nice place to a nicer place.
Right.
For example, if you are highly anxious, since we are talking about anxiety disorders, you are coming from a place of anxiety to move yourself into a place of less anxiety or manageable anxiety. So if you are used to anxiety and very familiar with it, you're going to get anxious very quickly because it is familiar. Just like if you are a typically angry person, you're very familiar with anger. So because you're familiar with it, it's easy for you to get angry.
So that's your go-to emotion.
Yes. So in terms of anxiety, therapy would want to bring you from being familiar with anxiety to being more familiar with relaxation. So once you're more familiar with it, it's easy for you to then be more relaxed. And that's something that Haziq went through. Training, not just about relaxation, but also about training the thought process from being maladaptive. I wouldn't even call them negative thoughts. I would call them maladaptive thoughts that are not useful for you in the long run. And to change it to something that is more useful, adaptive, that you can use for coping. Like Haziq said, you don't use coping when you are actually in the anxiety. I mean, you do. There are certain kinds of coping, but the trick to managing any kind of mental illness is to not focus on the symptoms. You're going to focus on the non-symptoms. How can you prolong the time where you don't show any symptoms? That's the main part of it. And that's what I hear Haziq telling us. That you're going to work every day on prolonging being not anxious. Until you get anxious, then you do something about it. with the kind of skills you have. So a
Prepare
lot of
those
it's about-
barriers before the flood comes then.
yeah, that kind of thing. And you're creating a scaffolding around yourself,
Mm.
part of which is a social scaffolding, knowing who to seek help from. Personal scaffolding, as in you know how to pick yourself up. All right, there's emotional, there is behavioral, there is cognitive. Behavioral would be knowing how to breathe and how to exercise. Regular exercise is one thing. Also, it buffers you against stress.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
it's research evidence also. So basically, you are trying to activate behaviors that promotes relaxation and feeling of ease. And to behave in that way, you're going to have all kinds of cognitive challenges. You know, voices in your head saying, "No need lah, malas lah,
Yeah.
tak apa lah."
Is that
you know,
the devil and the angel on your shoulder kind of thing?
correct. You are trying to change your behaviors, and then this devil telling you that you can't. You're a loser.
Yeah.
Don't you remember you are such a loser that you panic? Come on, panic.
Yeah.
So these are the
Right.
thoughts that you're fighting all the time because you want to change.
Mm.
So that's why it's called cognitive behavior therapy. You are trying to change your behavior, but you're going to address your cognitions that what's that word? That sabotages your efforts in changing.
Right.
So cognitions come in all forms, and you're trying to identify the thoughts that sabotage you, challenge them, and then find more beneficial way of thinking, practice them to the point that you're so used to it that whenever you get a sabotaging thought, you go, ha, gotcha. You're not going to disturb me this time. I'm going to think this way, ha. And then you move on. That takes time. It's easier said than done. You will fail. And even though you feel comfortable doing it, you will fail again. Something will trigger you. And that happens to me too. I'm a clinical psychologist by training. I'm a mess.
Wow.
I'm burnt out at work, which is to the point that I had to go seek help. But I know to seek help. And I'm able to embrace my own, I guess, mental unhealthiness, to the point that sometimes when I listen to Haziq, I'm jealous of him. He's doing it so well.
Yeah.
He's so disciplined. So thank you, Haziq, for inspiring me.
The first step to solving a problem is knowing that you have a problem, right?
Yeah.
So, Haziq, I just need a word of advice from you, from someone that's actually gone through it, who lives it every single day, and is in my mind, at least you've got a handle on it, right? So for people who are suffering from anxiety, or they think that they might have an attack, or they have had an attack, what would you want to say to them? What would be your advice to them?
Yeah, there is one term when you are feel not okay. So there's one term that I would like to share. It's okay not to feel. What is the terms of that? It's okay not to be okay.
Right.
If you.
It's okay to be not okay, because we're all not okay every now and then, and that's okay.
Yeah. Because at the end, we are just normal human being that need help. That with a lot of weaknesses. Just remember that you are not alone. There are a lot of expert and professional out there that are willing to help. People like Dr. Alvin. Just raise your hand. Just bear in mind that this is manageable. This anxiety is not. This is manageable. It's totally manageable. And just raise your hand. Remember, you are not alone, and it's okay not to be okay. And please just raise your hand and please seek advice and help from the expert, or the people that you are trusted the most.
So for those who do want help, at the top of your heads, gentlemen, who would be the best person, or where would be the best place to go to get this help?
I would say your GP.
All right.
Family doctor. Most doctors these days are very much trained in mental health literacy. They would be able to do very basic assessments and refer you on. If you're able to find a counselor, go speak to a counselor first. They will provide you with an assessment to see whether or not you would require a psychiatrist, refer you to a psychiatrist. I mean, if you're not too sure, you feel that you might need help, then get a referral to see a psychiatrist. You don't have to be mad to see a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine got very upset that he was sent to see a psychiatrist because he had sleep problems.
Right. Yeah.
But psychiatrists do that. They prescribe medication for sleep problems.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're mad. He got very offended by his family doctor.
So what? I'm not crazy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Feel free to seek help from your local GP and then get a referral to see a psychiatrist. And psychiatrists will not simply just medicate you just because, you've got some problem. They will check you out first.
Right.
And then perhaps they will refer you to the counselor and say, okay, you don't need any medication right now. Just work on this first and come back and check on it later on.
Yeah.
Because they are also ethical. They don't simply want to just charge you money so that they can,
drug
earn
you
tons.
up. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe some are like that, but the ones I know,
Yeah, the good ones
they're
don't. The
ethical.
good ones don't. Yeah. Look for the good
Yeah.
ones, right? And Amirul,
Yeah.
what about you? You mentioned Souls. You mentioned Souls Health, right? They're a good place to
Yeah.
actually get the help as well, right?
Yeah, it's one of the place, that actually they provide a consult. Actually, they provide a professional counseling by a clinical psychologist with a subsidized rate. Yeah, so with a subsidized rate. So like if you went to a private, if you're seeking for a clinical psychology services, from a private practice, it will cost you around 150 to 350.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, doctor.
Yeah,
Out
correct.
there.
Very expensive per
if you
hour.
want to,
Per hour.
Mm.
Okay.
per hour, per hour. It's not, per hour. So if you want to look for the government, if you are waiting for the government, you need to queue up. Yeah, you need to queue up.
And you need to go to like a KKM, get some kind of letter before you actually get to speak to.
the
a
letter.
psychiatrist.
Yeah. And if we, if it will, you need to wait, and of course there is a long queue that you need to wait. So is one of it, and the other, and there are a lot of the organization that arise right now that provide with a subsidized rate, like what I know is a mental MMHA, right?
Yes. Malaysian Mental Health Association.
Yeah.
Association,
MIASA as well.
Yes.
Yeah, MIASA. Yeah.
All right.
They are among the organization that provide with a subsidized rate. Yeah.
Gentlemen, this has been a very, very eye-opening chat with you. And Haziq's absolutely right. If you want to get more details on how to get in touch with Souls Health, you can go to the website. It's www.soulshealth.org. That's SOLS health.org. Professor Dr. Alvin Ng, thank you so much for chatting with us. And I'm pretty sure this won't be the last time we're going to have this chat. We're going to have more interesting chats in the future. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And Amirul Haziq Umar. Haziq, thank you so much for your time as well.
Yeah, thank you for inviting too. Yeah, nice meeting you.
Yeah, thank you, Haziq. I mean,
yeah,
thank you so much, doctor. Yeah.
And also this month, I've partnered up with Souls Health to raise much needed funds to help them continue to serve the underprivileged. Now, Souls Health is a not-for-profit organization that provides access to mental health services to the B40 community. Now, they also provide therapy for survivors of domestic violence in Malaysia. So what can you do to help? Go to this website, www.spicyramenchallenge.com. spicyramenchallenge.com. All right. Hit that donate button. Give generously. If they hit the target of 250,000 ringgit, you will get to see me suffer over a bowl of spicy ramen. So I don't eat spicy food. So this is going to be a challenge for me, but I'm willing to do it if they hit the target and the money is going to go to a very, very good cause. So give generously. My name is Jason Desmond. This has been What's Up With That. Thank you so much for watching. And as usual, don't be a dick.